climbers is growing very quickly. Climbing is becoming much more deadly on average because a lot of below average climbers are climbing, if I could say that.
So if you're climbing on the land and you're that kind of
Man, you know, there is rare equipment failure. There are user errors, like not securing some part of the system correctly. And by the way, rocks break. So rocks fall on a person and crush their heads or cut their ropes, or things happen. Yeah.
What's the ranking of natural causes, like natural death?
Well, that's the funny thing. If you consider heart disease a natural death, then number one. Right? And so it's very difficult to define a natural death. Like, these are natural. Do these things count as natural deaths? I'm not sure what the unnatural causes of death are, and I haven't seen that actuarial breakdown. But I'd love to see it if you want to Google that and put it on the web. I'm very curious. Okay. Anyway, risk assessment thing, kind of an old topic for me. I'm going to move on. Number 36, look at that. The Earth at night. Obviously, the Earth is never at night everywhere. That's an assembly of photographs. It's actually pretty hard to find nighttime sky without clouds. So to make the original one of these took something like 14 years. And then just a couple days ago, yesterday I believe, NASA published an animation of this that was put on my Facebook group by someone. Liz Hunter, I think, put it on my Facebook group yesterday. So you might want to check it out. It's beautiful. It shows the Earth spinning underneath a virtual camera at night. So imagine a camera floating over the dark side of the Earth as the Earth spins underneath. It's really beautiful. I hope you get to see that. It's on my Facebook page for the file. Anyway, look at that. The U.S. is pretty bright. Japan's pretty bright. Western Europe is pretty bright.
Look at North Korea.
Yeah, North Korea's got the lights off. Sadly, no joke. They really do have the lights off. South Korea?
South Korea's like...
South Korea.
See that line where the light stops?
One line had like...
Yeah, right. That's like Kim Jong-un's house. And then look at this. Look at the Nile. You guys see the Nile River?
Oh, yeah.
Cradle civilization? Yeah, yeah. So the red spots are fires visible from space. They're very large fires for slash and burn agriculture. They're large slash and burn fires. And the yellow lights, I believe, are fishing boats or something like that. So you can see a lot of deforestation here, here, and there. From fires. I think there's a key right there. Somebody, Dante, tell me what the yellow lights are.
Australia's like all yellow lights.
Fishing boats?
It's all like on land. There's like some red lights, but I forget
Where fires rage.
Okay. So yellow is wildfires. And then there's also fishing boats.
Gas burn-off is red.
Natural gas burn-off is red. There you go. All right. Okay, back to me. I don't know how many of you have heard this, but there's this international movement to turn off the lights at night. Flagstaff, Arizona, I believe, was the first light pollution-free city in the United States. If I'm wrong about that, I'm sure you can find the right data, but when I went to Flagstaff over the Thanksgiving holiday, I went outside at night and I was like, wait a minute, you can see plenty. And then the next night, we went to go watch the sunset on this park that overlooks the city. And as soon as the lights came on, I was like, holy crap, it's true. Like, no light bounces up. All the lights are shielded. So they light the street. You know, you don't want to turn off the lights where humans are living because crime and car accidents and lost children and stuff. But you don't need to be lighting up the sky. There are some huge impacts from the lights at night. Did I wave off a question from someone? Please.
Oh, I was going to ask all the crime that was happening.
Yeah. So here are the big problems with light pollution. One of them, which is probably not irrelevant, humans like stars. Like the night sky has some aesthetic appeal. If you've never had an opportunity to see a real clear night sky, I really hope you get to see it. When we go up to Yosemite, it really is striking. Like, I spend almost every night outside there. I don't usually sleep with the kids because I get to bed a lot later, so I often sleep in my hammock. And the night sky is blinding. Like, both of my children have already seen the Milky Way. We go out and look at it pretty often. And like, a lot of Americans today cannot describe the Milky Way. Like, they don't know which way it runs, and like they don't. Actually, it's not that. They don't know what the Milky Way is. They can't look up at the sky and say, I think it's about that wide. It's pretty fascinating that we don't see a pattern in the stars that all generations of humanity had seen until roughly your parents were born. So the viewing the sky, nighttime viewing is a problem with light pollution. But then there's three big issues for wildlife. Number one, nocturnal animals do not come out on a full moon. Anybody know why? It's too bright. You know, yeah, if you can follow a trail or read a book by the full moon, well, the owl can find a mouse pretty easily too. So nocturnal animals take about a week off every month because it's just too sketchy to be out in the full moon. Likewise, nocturnal animals cannot live near city lights. Light pollution just makes it too dangerous to be nocturnal. So that's one problem. Well, they have to move away. When you start to put up lights, nocturnal animals leave. And a lot of times that can crumble food webs. For example, there are nocturnal pollinators. A lot of flowers are pollinated by bats, and bats are afraid of the light. Or some bats are afraid of the light. Second wilderness problem, migratory animals get confused. You can imagine, they're used to navigating by the moon, and there's only one moon. But when you're flying through a city, the moon's reflecting off all the skyscrapers, and every gas station looks like another moon. And they're used to following water, which reflects starlight, but they might end up following a bunch of cities that are connected by a freeway, because that reflects starlight, or it looks like reflected starlight too. So migratory animals get really hammered by light pollution. And the third one, has anybody heard the problem for the sea turtles? So if you think about it, when turtles were evolving, it makes a lot of sense for them. They can't breathe underwater, so you can't lay the eggs in the water. You got to lay the eggs on land. Land is sketchy, so you got to put them in a hole. So sea turtles come out of the land, they dig a hole, they plop their eggs in the hole, they cover it up, and then they grunt their way back into the water. When the little hatchlings come out, how will they find the ocean? The sound of the waves is not a good idea because many parts of the tropical ocean don't have a lot of wind activity at night, so they don't necessarily have a lot of wave activity at night. Many places where turtles live, the ocean is silent at night, so sound doesn't work. But the reflection of moon and stars, well, there's always some light, even if it's cloudy. So because the ocean will reflect any amount of light, they're born with really sensitive eyes. As soon as they come out of the ground, they start to look for the reflected light, and they go for it. You can imagine on the beaches of Miami, what's brighter, the reflected twinkle of starlight on the ocean, or effing Miami? So it's like hilarious, but sad when you see it. All the turtles walk uphill and get run over by cars and eaten by dogs. Awful. It's like pretty lame. So the light pollution, three big problems: migratory birds, nocturnal animals, and sea turtles. Okay. Unless you have questions, I've got nothing left to add in assignment 6.1. vocab in 6.2. I've got a couple words to add, but that's it. No vocabulary questions in 6.2? Wait. No, you wait. Okay, fine. Then here are 3 words for you to add in 6.2. Please look up. Pandemic, zoogenic, and emergent disease. You can see all 3 of them right there. Pandemic, zoogenic, and emergent. Pandemic is an epidemic that spreads across a large land area. So a high degree of infection across a large geographic area. Because the AIDS epidemic covers most of Africa, we say that AIDS is pandemic in Africa, meaning it is an epidemic across the entire land area. Pandemic.
Would it also be pandemic if
The funny thing is, there's really no numerical cutoff for what makes an epidemic or not. So for a while, people called it an AIDS epidemic, but really it's about the number of infections. So since the number of new infections in the U.S. has been going down for about 10 years, most people don't consider AIDS epidemic in the U.S. anymore. It's just a semantic gray area because really there is no explicit definition what makes an epidemic that I'm aware of. So you ask people who are focused on AIDS and they'll say, yeah, it's an epidemic, it's a big problem. And then you ask people in the lay public who don't have it affecting their neighborhood and they're like, what AIDS epidemic? Okay. Does anybody know what genesis means? Yeah, beginning or birth, actually. So zoogenesis or zoogenic, anybody want to guess what that would be? Disease that starts with animals. Again, HIV, for example.
Yeah, it really starts on monkeys.
that actually come from like a dude boning a monkey?
No.
Where did it come from?
By the way, I know exactly, and I'll get to that, but I wonder why you jumped to it being a dude boning.
I don't know, but that's a very wide spread for a woman to bone a monkey.
Yeah, but a woman can get boned by a monkey.
It's probably easier to do boning.
It's easy to get boned.
Anyway, okay, Gavin, I agree with you. Fascinating conversation. Back to me, though. We believe that AIDS was zoogenic from what was called primate immunodeficiency virus. Remember that viruses are highly mutable. In other words, they lack eukaryotic error correction. When your cells make new genetic material, there's all sorts of proofreading. You know how Microsoft Word will underline a word that you spelled wrong? Your genetics have little proofreading methods. They go, hey, if it doesn't line up, we gotta fix that. But viruses don't. Viruses have a genetic error rate thousands of times greater than most eukaryotes and many prokaryotes. So,